amazing.
Yeah, so we can just teach these fun little foundational techniques, just like other activities have been doing for a long time, but somehow voice teachers just were shooing people off to go somewhere else because we were stuck in this master apprentice idea that, singing voice lessons are this. And
Mm.
the only people then that are taking singing again are those people that are already showing this extraordinary aptitude. And then we're just kind of coaching these songs. So that's the kind of techniques that I like, and that's so my Born to Sing kids is just this kind of, I have like 5 stages of the lesson or the voice class. So we start with some mind and body, and so we'll maybe do a, like I said, a little maybe I'll do some poetry with them, where I'll say a man went up in an airplane, and they have to respond with, all right, but the airplane didn't have an engine. Oh no. So now we're discovering how we can lift our voices into this high head voicey sound, but we're not going to use those words with them because we're just going to help them. Maybe we're going to read the Three Little Pigs story, and we can talk about, or Three Little Bears. That's what Goldilocks and the Three Little Bears. Sorry. Like
Yes.
maybe we just read this little story at the beginning of their lesson and talk about how Papa Bear, what is the voice that Papa Bear has? And what about Mama Bear? Where do you think her voice might be? And what about Baby Bear? What voice will we use for Baby Bear? And so we can already be talking about these different registers and sounds that we can be making. We can be using puppets or stuffed animals. That's another technique that we can be teaching young children. And so then they're not stuck in, I can only sing in my belty chest voice. And they never really found that light heady voice because they think, oh, that's weak and I don't like it up there. But so maybe we're just going to use it today as to be Baby Bear. It's not you, Marissa, it's not you singing, it's Baby Bear singing. And
Ah,
we can have so much fun in
yeah.
this playing, and then all of a sudden now we realize that we're telling stories and we're connecting to our expression. And that's another technique that we learn in singing, is how to express ourselves and to sing with technique. And so there's just so many things that we can to do with play and discovery, and they don't even realize that we're putting all these things together. So then when we get to a song and now it's like all of a sudden, oh, that's too high. I can't sing that high. It's like, wait a minute. You were just singing a vocal exercise using your Baby Bear voice and we went all the way up to high C, right?
Yeah.
It's, oh, I did? I didn't even notice. It's so these are so many things that we can teach them. And by the way, we can teach this to older students and adults too.
I love that. I want to be a fly on the wall when you teach. That sounds like so much fun. Actually, I want to go back and be a kid and be in your lesson.
And blow bubbles.
Oh yeah, just give me that bubble machine. No, that is brilliant. That is sheer genius. And you know what it is? It's thinking outside the square. And it's, as you said, breaking away from a model that's been handed down and adapting our teaching for the person who's in front of us. And the other thing too, it sounds like to me that you're not just addressing all the different voice types in that lesson, but also all the different learning styles. Sounds
Mhm.
like there's visual, oral, kinesthetic. You're covering learning styles for everybody.
Yes, and that's when they start to get a little bit older and we need to start using our bodies to tell the story. And then we've already been using all of this. We've already been expressing and using gestures and our body to create our sound and finding that freedom and efficiency in that.
Yeah, and it's creating that freedom, but it's also you're not placing limitations on them. You're actually taking that idea that we have limitations away from them at such a young age, which I think is beautiful. So it's nothing is wrong or right. It's just it is what it is, and it's great. Just allow yourself to make the sound.
Yes,
It's
for sure.
fine. It's fine. And then you have your book, your amazing book, Teaching the Child Singer. So, how did that book come about? Was that from the Born to Sing Kids program?
Yeah, a little, you know, fun story. I'm a member of NATS, the National Association of Teachers of Singing. And when I was doing that master's degree and really talking and developing um, my research around these like five different parts of the voice lesson that I do, which is again, it's mind and body, then we do some breath and posture work and just talking about, and they kind of seamlessly go into each other. Then I always teach a little bit of musicianship in a voice lesson. And then we vocalize and then we sing repertoire. So there's five stages of every lesson. And so I was really, for my master's thesis, I was really doing the research on all of that. And so as a member of NATS, as an independent teacher, I applied for the Joan Frey Boynton Award, which is the award for independent teachers that they offer for, I don't know how many recipients get it, but it gives them a stipend to go to the national conference. Because as independent voice teachers, it's very hard for us to go to conferences when we don't have, some stipends or things. A lot of the academics have that, that they can apply for grants at their
Yeah.
institution. But independent teachers don't have that, so it comes right out of our pocket, and so it's sometimes really unattainable. So I had won that award, and so that was going to be my first opportunity to go to the national conference. And I'm a list maker, and I journal. I'm all about goals, and so I'd sat down and I made out all my goals, and I was using all of the Hal Leonard songbooks in my singing classes, and I really liked the songbooks that had children singing. And I was very specific about the songbooks that I would pick that had children singing the samples of the song, because I also believe that children don't hear children singing. They even the Disney movies, that they want to sing all the Disney princesses that are all sung by 30-year-old women, right?
Yes.
So they all want to sing and sound like the Disney princess, but they don't really have a good understanding of what their own peers sound like. So I've always loved using the Hal Leonard books that had um, sung examples. So on my goal list was to talk to Rick Walters at Hal Leonard and tell him that how much I loved using their songbooks, but that there needs to be more resources to help teachers understand how to work with children. And so from that conversation, he and I had several conversations. He invited me to send him a book proposal, and I did. And so that's how my book came to fruition, and that was in 2018. And so then from that point, it took 2 years for us to get the book published. And so I'm just so grateful to Nats and to Hal Leonard and Rick Walters for that opportunity, because it wasn't something that teachers, had that opportunity. And it was also during that time that I have a Facebook forum called Voice Teachers for Young Singers, and I
Yes.
started
I'm
that
part of that
with,
forum.
oh
I
yeah,
may not say much, but I'm there.
yeah, you're one of the lurkers.
I'm a stalker.
Yeah, no, and that's good. We have over 5,000 members all over the world, and my dear friend and colleague Nikki Galoni, who Nikki has full voice music, and so she and I connected early on too in my before my time of publishing my book, because she has these wonderful kind of theory oral skills workbooks for singers specifically. And so that's what I was using and I still do it in my musicianship. And she now is publishing all kinds of wonderful songs and has a wonderful presence with me in our Facebook forum. So we were already talking and communicating. She lives in Canada, and we would have these long conversations, and we were in some of the other voice forums. And when anybody ever said, "Hey, I've got an 8-year-old and I need help," the voice teachers, and this was like in 2016, 2017, the voice teachers would literally, like they were sharks. They would just like and rip them to shreds. Like
Yeah.
you know what? I wish we could like scroll back there and see the nasty comments that people would say. And so Nikki and I were like, we need a safe place. We need a safe place where teachers can come and talk about this and not be ripped to shreds. And even
Yeah.
when we first started our Facebook forum with our first, 100, 500 members, there would be people that came on there. They thought voice teachers for young singers meant like 20-year-olds, like young in the academic setting. And they would like, and we actually, that's where it's fun when you're a moderator of a Facebook forum, because you can just be like, delete.
Delete. But
Goodbye.
I speak about this actually. There's a reel that went up today on my Instagram that I had my first troll on Instagram
Oh, I saw that.
some
Yes.
months ago. And
Yes.
you're hitting a nerve when you get a troll. You've made it. I actually think it's a positive thing. I don't look at trolling as a bad thing unless, they become deeply personal. But
Yes.
then you know that they've got some sort of problem going on. It's just like, clearly, this is your baggage talking here. It's not you, the human, that's, in a good place in your life. But I think a lot of the people that arc up in those forums are the ones that are feeling confronted and they are fearful of the information that you're sharing because it goes against what they believe to be true. And dare we
Yeah.
change mindset or
Mhm.
try to change behaviors or ideas and opinions,
Mhm.
because then what do they do? Okay, well, then it's like, well, if this is what I've been doing all these years and that's no longer the case, well, what do I do now? You know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and to be fair, I've been teaching young children since 1988 because I serendipitously ended up teaching at a voice studio, like a performing arts studio where there were dancers, actors, like kids doing speech and drama
Yeah.
from 1988. And I've had a thriving studio with young singers. And then I ended up in the education system where you don't have a choice as to who you teach at a
Mhm.
school, that K to 12 age group. And I was teaching CCM repertoire, and I was teaching it successfully because I learned what tools I needed and what programs, music editing programs, where I could find the sheet music, where I could find the tracks, how I could change them, how I could adapt them to speed them up, slow them down. If there was a bridge that was too much for the student, well, get rid of the bridge. Doesn't matter if the bridge is there or not. They're not going to care. They're still singing the song that they want to sing. If
Yeah.
there's one high note that's unattainable, don't throw the song out the window. I would just improvise the high note and
Yeah.
find a note that they could sing. So it just takes time, it takes an
Yeah.
imagination, and
Mhm.
it takes thinking outside the square, and it takes effort.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you said that because I am not good at that. Again, I'm not a pianist, and so that's why,
No, neither am I.
like yeah, like even the songbook, like I don't do a lot of pop songs. Like if a pop song comes and the kid wants to do it, and it's just really has all of those things that you just said, the bridge, the form is really long, and for kids to like memorize all of that, and then there is that one note you can't really transpose it because their range is here. And
Yes.
so if that note is over here and you transpose it, now you've just gone here and now it's too low on the other side. But I'm not a good enough musician. I'll just say it, I'm
Mm.
not, perfect. I'm not, and I don't have the time or the ability to go and make these arrangements, or I'm not good with Pro Tools and all that stuff on the, I need songs that are kind of like they're already there. They're pre-packaged and they're here. And so that's in my songbook that I just published, the first songbook. I do
Yes.
have some songs in there that introduce, you know, different styles and genres of music that are very simple, that are simple for kids. That, one of my songs that is in that book that I really love, it's one of my favorites, is Come On, Get Happy. I don't know if you guys had the TV show The Partridge Family down in
Yes.
Australia. And
Yes.
Come On, Get
David
Happy is
Cassidy.
Yes, do you know what? I mean, segue. We have tickets to see Sean Cassidy at 54 Below in New York City in a couple months, and I can't wait. He was my heartthrob back in the 80s, 70s. I think it was actually the 70s. But
Okay.
anyway, he was David Cassidy's little brother, Sean
Yes.
Cassidy. If
I
anybody
know.
knows him.
I know who
I had his
Sean Cassidy
poster in
is.
my room,
Mhm.
So I'll be fangirl there. Da do run, 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 da do run, run. That was his
Yes.
song. Anyway, so Come On Get Happy is the theme song from the Partridge Family. And I don't know, I just love that song, but it has that cool kind of 70s, popish feel to it. So that song is in my songbook because it's simple. The form is simple. They can sing and learn a little bit about swing beat and how to stylize a little bit without having to have, that long form of your traditional pop rock song with, all those different, the bridge and all of that. And
Pre-chorus, chorus,
yes,
verse,
thank you.
outro,
Yes.
intro. It's
Exactly. And how
all
they
that.
even can follow. And then if you actually just go onto the internet and pull the lyrics off, it's like 3 pages long. And you give that to a 7-year-old. They hear
A
these
lot.
songs, they want to sing them, but then all of a sudden, it's like the text is long. It's hard to memorize. They get lost. They can't remember all the words. They can't pronounce words. They don't even know what they're singing about. How
Mm.
can they express when they don't really can't relate to unrequited love or whatever the song is about? Because they're about very sophisticated adult life experiences, not children experiences. So I love that song, Come On, Get Happy, because it's just about, hello world. Let's get happy,
Yeah,
so
I mean, of course, that's going to put anyone in a good mood, including a child.
yeah.
So, what do you believe is the number one myth around teaching children's voice lessons and technique?
Gosh, the number one, I know. You
Or
start.
a myth. Okay. It
Okay,
doesn't
a
have to
myth.
rate
Oh,
as number one. A
right.
myth
Well,
will
we
do.
we we covered a couple of them, right? That it's dangerous, and I hope we've debunked that one. The other one is that we can't teach them technique. That's a big one. Again, they all kind of go back to that master apprentice thing. That like they can't learn technique. It's like we have to ask ourselves, what is technique?
Mm,
What is singing technique?
mhm.
If we think of it as a very, sophisticated, acoustical thing, but there's so many things that are technique in singing. So, those are a couple of the biggies, I think, that, that their attention spans aren't long enough for a traditional voice lesson, that, they can't, sing technique. So I think those are the three biggest ones
Yeah.
that I
Yes.
hear.
And when we are teaching children, what do you think are the main considerations, say, around physiology? So we've
Mm.
covered attention span, but what about physiology? What are the things we need to be mindful of and careful of and tread carefully in these particular areas?
Yeah, there is two things that I like to always remind myself, and as my golden rule, which is to keep our intensity and duration in check. So they can sing intense. They
Mm,
can sing loud. We've heard them scream and be loud, but we don't want that with a long duration, right? We don't want them to be belting for a long period of time. We want, them to do these things in moderation. So all good things in moderation. I really think that is really an important thing. So to remember that intensity and duration go together. So we don't want those, we don't want too much intensity for too long.
Mm.
Um, and so I think that's really important. And and just another thing that I think that is just kind of like a golden rule in my life, in my teaching with children, in my parenting and in my own life experiences, I feel like it's more important in life to have quality over quantity. So when I'm working with children, I think it's really important that we have a quality of sound than a quantity of sound. They don't need to always be big and loud and full. And so, that's another thing that, we didn't really talk about, but those voice teachers that'll just say, sing louder,
Oh,
sing it out.
yes,
And and that's something that we need to really cultivate, and it shouldn't be taught from a singing standpoint. I think we really need to teach that from, just like how we teach kind of belting and things, from kind of calling and learning
mm,
at a speech level how to project our voices and before we project our voices in our singing. But again, one of the things that is again in that master apprentice model, which is that acoustical thing. And so another thing that we shouldn't be afraid to do is use microphones. If you're working with a 5-year-old and they're singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and they're singing Twinkle Twinkle and it's really soft and you're having this voice recital and you think that mom and dad or grandma and grandpa aren't going to be able to hear them, use a microphone. Use a
yes.
microphone.
Well,
Amplify
yeah,
them. Don't be
especially in
afraid.
yeah, especially in CCM. It's so important to use microphone. That is an extension of our voices, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And so that's another technique that they could be learning at a very early age too. They don't necessarily have to be holding the microphone because it can be very distracting for a little one. So, I set up a microphone. And so that again goes back to I want their quality of sound to be the most important thing and not the quantity, not how
yes,
much of a sound that they have. So
yes,
those are just some of my golden rules when working with my children,
yeah.
singers.
I actually left a teaching studio about, I want to say 10 years ago, but I don't think it was that long ago. I was teaching at a dance studio and
Mhm.
I was teaching private lessons there, and the teacher, the owner of the dance studio, had me teaching some of their song and dance troupes, and she assigned the repertoire, and
Right.
the repertoire was not within the capabilities. It wasn't accessible for the singers, and she was getting really angry with me because I couldn't get volume from these singers. And she was deciding who the soloists were based on their dance capabilities and their look and not on their vocal skills. I ended up leaving that job.
Yeah.
It was so soul destroying, and my anxiety levels were peaking. And I
Yeah.
did something I've never done before, but I just was feeling so shattered that I was meant to go to work one particular afternoon and I was feeling physically ill about going to work, to the point that I wrote an email hours before I was meant to turn up and I resigned effect as of right now.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing. It was the worst thing. And this dance studio owner was listening to what the other dance teacher was saying about the singing
Hmm.
over what I was saying. And at that point of time, I didn't have a PhD, but I had a master's in vocal pedagogy. And she was listening to the hip hop teacher.
Yeah.
And so I just went, you know what, you people are not my people. And I don't, this actually goes against my core values. I'm out of here. So I resigned on the spot in that moment where I just could not face going there another day, another moment, another minute. So it was
Yeah.
like, I'm out of here. And I love what you're doing. Look, what do you say though? Okay, so you have the dance studio, all the scenarios there. Have you
Yeah.
ever had to speak to a parent and say, I know you want your child to sing this song, and it'll usually be a pop song, usually. Like
Yeah.
I've had parents want their 5 year olds to sing Adele,
Yes.
and the child is singing that music at home and then comes to my lesson and they have no voice. So, how do you deal with those parents? Have you ever had to fire a parent? Like
That's a very
say,
good question.
you know,
Yeah.
this is not the studio. I that goes against my core values.
Yeah, that there's not a quick and, one quick answer to that because it is a process. First of all, I do vet my potential parents and I have a lot of questions that I ask, on my website that already give me an idea of what they're looking for because I am not looking to be a vocal coach to kids that are just wanting to work on just repertoire. I'm a very holistic teacher. I want to teach the whole child. I really want to touch their heart and not just get them doing like exactly what you're talking about. So right away, I'm already kind of vetting my ideal client that I know that is going to work well with me. And then I do a lot of onboarding with my parents. And because I've been teaching like you probably over 30 years and I'm a parent, I do have a sense of authority. I do feel like with
Mm.
my parents, but I'm also very careful. I do notice that a lot of the teachers that I mentor and work with, they do talk a lot about boundaries and they want to put up their boundaries. And sometimes maybe I'm just not that stressed about it. I kind of will sometimes just let it play out. I did have a little
Yes.
kindergartner once with her mom, and they were coming, and the little girl wanted to sing in the school talent show, That Girl Is on Fire by Alicia Keys.
Yes.
And so I said, okay. So they came for their first voice lesson, and I think she had fallen asleep in the car and came in and spent most of the voice lesson on her mom's shoulder. And so we kind of worked on little parts of this That Girl Is on Fire while I was trying to also introduce just some, playful little things like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, other little things. But so again, I think we can be working on things simultaneously, right? It doesn't have to just be we're going to spend your whole lesson working on this song. And so I was just kind of like, I really wasn't like, okay, let's just work on this song. I kind of touched on it a little bit. Well, then after about 3 weeks, she emailed me and said, the school said she can't sing that song, that kindergarteners aren't allowed to sing because the principal probably was like, heck no. And so it kind of just resolved. So I didn't put up a boundary. I didn't, dig in my heels. I didn't sit there and say, no, you can't do that. I kind of just, I kind of just let it work its way through. And I've had other situations like that too, where, you
Mm.
know, I actually just wrote a blog post about this, about, I've been writing and talking a lot about repertoire choosing. And I had a young girl last year or a year before that was working on a song from that Sing 2 movie.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I don't remember the name of the song, but Scarlett Johansson sings it. She really, really wanted to sing this song. So
Oh,
I said,
was it
okay.
True Colors? No.
Um,
I do know, but
I
I
can't
can't think
remember
of
it.
it. It'll come to me.
So, but we worked on the song, but it's exactly, what I had mentioned earlier. Like we went on the internet and printed off the lyrics. The lyrics were so long. And again, again, if a one teacher is really good at cutting and pasting, and they're really good at that, and they like composing and doing this with the repertoire, that's great. This is why I like my ideal client. That's not what I do. I do a lot of things and I'm happy to meet my students where they're at, but it is a give and take. And that is just not something that I, have experience in or have the desire to learn that experience. I'm a lifelong learner, but that's just one thing that's
Yes.
not interesting to me.
Yes.
So, but we worked on the song and we were working alongside some other songs. And when it came time to pick a song for the recital, because she'd been working with me for 3 years, all on her own said, this is going to be really hard for me to memorize. And she's, really a perfectionist and really gets hard on herself when she makes mistakes. And she was 8 years old, working with me since she was 5, said, I don't think I want to do this song on the recital. It's really long and it's going to be really hard for me to memorize, and I want to do this song over here. So she did it all on her own. So sometimes we need to just let it play out and introduce other things, because like you were saying about that dance studio, one of the other things when we go back and we talk about the adults that now say that they don't think that they can sing, because our job is to make sure that they feel valiant in what they're doing. And
Mm,
if we're giving them songs that are too hard or too high or too complicated and they can't sing it, they're going to feel like they aren't good singers, when in fact, they are trying to fit into shoes that are like a size 10 when they're a size 3. And it's not that their feet are bad, it's just that they are not there yet. And they might not ever be a size 10, even when they're fully grown, right? I mean, there are
yes,
songs that you sing that I can't sing, and there might be songs that you sing, or likewise, but the other way
yes.
around. So I just think that it's really important for us to help our singers feel valiant. So we don't have to say no. We don't have to say, no, 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 away with that. We're not singing that. But we can kind of teach that alongside, you know, something else, and feed them some other things so they can go, oh, this actually sounds really good in my voice. Boy, these shoes are much more comfortable on my feet than that shoe over there, right?
Mm,
So and that's another technique that we're teaching them. We're teaching them how to make some of these decisions on their own. So I don't feel like when I'm working with those parents, that I need to really insert a lot of my feelings. And again, I recognize that I am older than my singing parents. I recognize
no,
that in more
we're
ways than one.
21. No, we're all 21 on my show.
But I have, yes, I have, again, by raising my own children, I have some life experience in parenting. My children are all performing artists. I have one in musical theater, one a professional violinist, and one a dancer. So I've been in all of those circles. I've seen it all. And I just feel like I do know how to kind of insert my authority in a very diplomatic way.
Yes, yes. And you usually find in private studio, the students and the parents that come in week after week don't ask for anything. They just show up, they do the work,
Yeah.
they're easygoing. They're the most loyal and long-term students you will ever have. The ones that come in that are
Hmm.
high maintenance,
Hmm.
they're
They want something
usually
bad. Yeah.
they're usually the ones that don't last because they'll be on to the next teacher and the next teacher. They're so fickle.
Yeah, they want results. And we all
Yes.
know that results, we know that there are some people, young, old, whatever, that have extraordinary aptitude for singing. They just do. But we also know that this is something that takes time to cultivate and learn. And even, um, any famous singer, will tell you that they had to really work. They didn't,
Yes.
just wake up and it's there. They have to, they had to work
Mm.
at it too. But some
Yeah.
people obviously have, it's again like dancers. Some dancers, they're just flexible. Mwah. And some people have to really work on those splits
Mm.
for a really long time.
Yeah. But what's interesting is when I mean, I'll use the example of a dancer. If you're ever teaching a dancer how to sing, they're usually the ones who are the most impatient. However, if you ask them, especially if there's someone that comes to you that they're 18 years old, 20 years old, you ask them, how long have you been having dance lessons for? And they'll say, I started dancing when I was 3. And I say,
Yeah.
well, so that means you've been learning for 15 years. Why do you expect with singing you're going to learn in 3 weeks? You know, it makes no sense. Or if an instrumentalist comes along, they've been playing guitar since they were 10. So 10 years, and after two lessons, they expect to be able to sing with the same aptitude they apply to their instrument. It's crazy. But
Yeah, for sure. But I do think that singing is one of those interesting things that, yes, there are just some people. You can go on YouTube right now and find 4 and 5 year olds that are just blow you away, that you could sing circles around me. And it's mind-boggling. And so there is that thing. I think those dancers, it's not that they really think, but they hear that other singer or that other
mm,
dancer that can just sing, and it's like, well, I want that too. And they work with that teacher, so that teacher must have taught them how to do that. When we know that
yes,
some people just, and that is the interesting thing about singing, because some people just really do. And I hear people say it all the time, like you either have it or you don't. And I don't believe that. I have firsthand witnessed singers make a lot of personal growth, but that's where, again, they don't have, they probably won't become famous singers, but not all singing has to be famous. And
no,
like we still have that again. I think piano, dance, people do these other activities for pure joy, and singing somehow is something that, we idolize so many famous singers and their amazing capacity, and if we can't do that, we think therefore, so I don't know,
yes,
it's a very interesting thing of
it is.
singing, and a lot of more research on all of that. But I love working with children. Helping them just, I love helping them learn how to read
Mm,
by singing. I like helping them learn how to um, connect to humanity through the stories and songs from different cultures and different, um, genres, and just
yes,
helping them
yes,
learn that way. I
yes.
love that.
So we're going to start wrapping up, Dana. We've been chatting for a while now, and it's late. You're in New York, and it would
It's
be
bedtime.
9:34 for you p.m. So, in wrapping up, what would be a piece of advice you would like to offer someone in the teaching voice community about teaching children if they're struggling to teach children or don't believe you should teach children? Just any advice in wrapping this up that you perhaps haven't shared.
You know, I think just don't have a closed mindset. I understand that we all have our ideal client, and I understand that if you don't want to teach this or that, that's fine. That is totally fine. I respect your desire to know who you want to work with. If you want to work with musical theater people that are young adults, that's fine. But don't tell other people that they can't or should not do something, is one thing. And then if you are somebody that believes that you'd really enjoy working with children, I say, just have fun and
Mm.
explore and continue to just learn and grow, because I think that our students teach us so much,
Oh, yes.
and working with children can really help us learn so much. They are willing to do anything. If again, when I was talking about, like Papa Bear and Mama Bear and Baby Bear, if you do something like that with a 13-year-old, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to do that, because they have so many inhibitions and they're afraid already, to to express themselves in
Yes.
that way. Children are so wonderful. They are so much fun because they will do anything you ask them. If you
Yeah,
ask them
absolutely.
to, twirl around and, sing this while pretending to be a ballerina, they're on it. They will do whatever, you ask them to do. And that is a beautiful thing. So, one of the other things that I think is so important about teaching children, and I'm just going to say this off the record, is that when we as voice teachers have a very fixed mindset of who we will take, we limit ourselves to, because I hear so many voice teachers say, I need more students, I need more clients. How can I advertise? How can I get more, you know? if you open your mind to teaching more ages and more different abilities and levels, you will have, we will have more voice people taking voice lessons if we open up our minds to the possibilities of all people taking singing lessons instead of just this small community of people. So, my advice to anybody that's willing and interested in working with children to just go for it and just, you know, explore all of that possibility.
Beautiful and very well said. Now, we're going to share the links to your program, to your book, to you in the show notes. So if anyone wants to learn more about how to teach children, they can find all of that information in the show notes. They can learn more about you, Dana, and your incredible work. And I appreciate you, and I really value the work that you're doing in the singing voice community. And I hope people take your advice on board and start to have some of the joy come into their lives in their teaching studios and experience that joy in the same way that you do. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise in this area, and look forward to catching up with you some other time. Take it easy. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.